Hey everybody, it's Bruce from Nature Calls. This is a setup and review of the Hilleberg Kaitum 2 GT. It's an awesome tent made out of the Kurlon 1200. So it's one of their red label tents. The fabric, the Kurlon, is really one of my favorite things about the Hilleberg. Other than the construction and the great poles and the great line and the construction, this Kurlon fabric is triple siliconized inside and out. It's probably the strongest tent fabrics on the market. You can't tear it. It's just indestructible as far as I'm concerned. I guess bears can get through it, but it's just the nicest fabric. Now the red label tent is a 4-season tent, so you'll see that the sides come all the way down to the ground, so that's so snow can't come in. And the inner is also a full fabric, so that's where you get that 4-season effect. Plus it has the poles and all the guy lines and all the stakes. It's just a really robust tent. Now the black label is the strongest tent, other than when you get into their really big like troop tents. But the black label uses a 10mm pole and 3mm guy lines and Kurlon 1800. So what they do with the red label tents is they try and make a strong tent but lighter. So they use the 9mm poles, the Kurlon 1200, lighter zippers, lighter internal fabrics and bug mesh, and the lines themselves are the 2mm, not the 3mm. So they just try and bring it down as much as they can, but still have a really robust, strong tent, but make it as light as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the whole setup on this, and then you'll see why I'm actually really crazy about this tent all the way through it. But at the end, I'm going to show you something really cool. So let's get and do a setup on it. All right, so this is a 65-liter pack. A lot of people ask me, you know, how long are the poles, or will it fit in a pack? And most tent manufacturers, not even talking about Hilleberg, they design it so it'll fit into a pack. So most of the poles are basically like a 65-liter pack, not including the area of where the sleeping bag would go. So there's my 65-liter pack. There's the tent. Squish it down, I can compress it down. Not bad. So I can carry this whole thing. I can carry this in my pack with all my gear. 65-liter pack. Now this whole bag with the tent and the guy lines and the stakes, the spare pole, the repair pole, everything in here is 8.1 pounds, or it's like 3.75 kilograms. No, it's not an ultralight tent, but there is an incredible amount of people, especially in Europe, that they just have these kind of tents. In America, a lot of people like the really ultralight stuff, but if you're in expeditions, if you're a hunter in Alaska, if you're, of course, over in Europe, if you're in unprotected areas, snow, you know, these are the kind of tents that you want. You wouldn't want to have a lightweight tent. We actually have a little breeze. That's kind of nice. It's always fun to put things up in the breeze. Just need to find my windward end. This is the GT model. So from here, that way is all vestibule. From there, that way is all living quarter. Get some stakes and we'll stake down the windward edge. And so being a red label tent, you get these V stakes from DAC, super lightweight. The black label, you get the X stakes like the MSR Groundhog. So back here, we're just going to tack out these 2 points on the tent, and they have adjusters, so you want to make sure those adjusters are all the way out. And normally you want to put these pretty much to the ground. I'm just doing a setup today, so I will leave them out just a little bit, kind of like at a 45-degree angle. There we go. So now we'll go put the poles in. Now there's two different lengths of poles in the GT model, and two of them are the longer poles, and they have a little bit of red tape on them, and that will correspond with some red tape on the pole sleeve itself. What I find is start at one end and work your way through. So we're going to start off with one of the smaller poles. They are the 9mm DAC poles. You want to make sure that everything's ferrule to ferrule. Don't want to throw them around or scratch them. You don't want any weaknesses. I'll just slide it into the pole sleeve about halfway through. Then we'll pull the sleeve the rest of the way and seat it into the heavy duty. And we'll just pull it on through. Put it into the little cup and tighten it all down. There we go. So here we have the red tape. We got the red ribbon on the pole sleeve. And you can see here, these pole sleeves are a thicker fabric than the Curl-On 1200. You can see how nicely zipped that is, or how nicely sewn that all is. You push it about halfway through and you pull until it seats down in the other pocket, which is kind of a heavier vinyl, and you just pull it on through. Beautiful. We have all the poles in. We find our tensioners on this side. Kind of lift up, bring it down, and stake it out. Now that we've got it all staked out, we'll tension those down, and we want a nice tension because this also creates the inner, which I'll show you in a minute, have good amount of tension on it as well. And go around and bounce them before I do my final tension. And one thing to remember is that this is a tent. It's not a house. It is fabric. So there will be, you know, it's about as perfect as you can get for fabric. So don't expect it to look like drywall. You know, you'll have little creases and ripples, but look how nice that looks. Okay, excellent. Fix our little air ducts. So now at this point, it is self-standing, just 4 stakes, that's all you need. But if it's a big wind, of course, you want to start guying out the guy lines. There's also guy points at the bottom of each one of the poles. So you can get this really solid. I'm going to put this one about 45 degrees that way. Tension it a little bit. Excellent. You don't want to over tighten those. You want them nice and taut. Okay, so this is their Vectran line that they've come up with. It's like a no stretch. There's no sheath on the outside. It soaks up very little water. It's got great grip to it. Super strong. Here we have nice tie-outs, these guy-out points. Now Hilleberg doesn't mess around with things like guy-out points. I know on some of my lighter weight tents, it might just be a guy-out on the rainfly. They've got serious guy-out points. They're all located where the poles are with this heavier duty fabric. Just sweet. This is a 2mm Vectran for the red label and the yellow label. They got a 3mm for the blue label, or the black label and the blue labels, or the bigger tents. I'll just get it all guyed out. Okay, so here's the GT part of it, and see this nice kind of a rubber gasket? So that's covering up the zipper. So you always want all your zips zipped up on the outside when you're setting it up. because that way you'll have the right tension all the way around. It's really hard to try and zip it up if you haven't done that. So we will roll this in. Clip it off. So here we have the vestibule. And this tent's super popular with hunters up in Alaska, and I can really see why. This is just a huge area. I'll show you here in a minute. But here you can see the inner. And the inner you unzip just a little bit, so when you're putting it away, it doesn't get a lot of air trapped in there. Just unzip it a little ways. Another great aspect, of course, getting all these types of tents. Any tent, you want as much ventilation as possible so we can actually duct the air straight up underneath here if it's raining. And you can adjust this up and down so you can get it, you know, so no snow or whatever is blowing in. But it's just an incredible amounts of ventilation in this tent. On the other part of this GT vestibule, you have another entry point. So say the wind's coming from that way and you don't want that door open, you can open up this door, and now you're getting some cross breeze too. I can feel that right away. But now you can get just another way in. It's really handy when you've got two people getting their gear out. What we've done is we'll take all the gear out of the inner tent, set it right here, and one person can be grabbing their gear out that door and the other person will be grabbing their gear out this door. So you can see it's just a huge, massive vestibule in this GT model. Here's the inner. You can see how the inner's suspended off of the outer, and that's where Hilleberg's tents are really cool, where you can set the whole thing up, the inner and the outer all together. So especially if it's raining, you just pull it right up and the inner stays dry. But nice big door on the inner. Really hot day today, so we'll try getting some ventilation in there. Just gonna tuck that into a pocket. I'm gonna go get the other door now. There are little bungees to tie that off. And one of the beauties of these tunnel tents like the Charon and the Kaitum is that you have this other entry point on the other end of the tent. So this is where you can really get some great ventilation going. This tent doesn't have a mesh insert, but with the two entrances like this, and you just have the mesh doors inside, you get this great flow. So here's another vestibule. So this is actually the same size as the vestibule of a GT model, of the non-GT model. Let's take a tour of the outside. I didn't guy out the bottom of each pole. There's a tab to add more stakes, so you could really get this real solid. Sure, it's a long tent. No, it wouldn't fit on the smaller tenting spots, but what a tent. Just beautiful. It comes in this red and sand and a dark green. I actually brought the tarp 5, so we could actually put a tarping off of this over here to even have more of an area. We're gonna have a lot of fun playing with that tarp. All right, so before I did a review on the Kaitum 3, and I was really used to the whole idea in tent language when it says a two-person, that really means one person, and three-person really means two-person, because I have 25-inch mats. Looking at this, it's actually way different. So let's it's across 50, so it's 57 inches across. So right there we have we can fit two full-size pads. So then people want to know, is it long enough for someone who's 6 feet tall? So it's 87 inches long. So it's plenty tall enough for tall people, plenty long enough for tall people, and it's plenty wide enough for two people. You have a vestibule in the back and a huge vestibule in the front. So this is truly a luxury two-person tent. Now the floor in here is a 70 denier, so it's a really tough floor. I don't think they need footprints. You can get footprints, but I've seen videos and photos of these actually sitting in a couple inches of water. No water's coming seeping through. You have this nice internal yellow tent. It's real bright and cheery, and you can set it up. You can get a pole kit, and you can set it up without the outer. It's not waterproof. It has a DWR on it, so if a light rain hit it, that'd be fine. You also have a nice thing for like if you want to dry your clothes. You got clothesline in here. And being a 4-season tent, you can have all fabric. So here I am in the GT part of the vestibule. Here's the vent on the front, and this black part right up here is actually a breathable fabric. So even when it's completely closed, it's still breathing. I'm gonna go around here. Now we can see where the tent, the inner, is completely separated from the outer. So the outer, if condensation, say you come in here with snow or you got a wet dog, the condensation gets on this outer, it'll go all the way down and go right back into the ground. But you have the inner tent suspended off of there. Here we have a pocket there. We have a pocket each of the 4 corners. Here we have the clothesline. You can tighten that up. This is just the beauty of this tent, is that, you know, what is that, 87 inches? So yeah, you could be like, whatever, 6'8", be very comfortable in here. Plus it has the straight wall on the back. It doesn't slope down. That's something I just really love. So then we come back here and you have the rear entry and a similar vent. So you can put all your gear back here. One person could have his gear back here and another person have his gear up in the front. And then this whole end can be folded back just like the other end, but you wouldn't have the covered area. Just fantastic. We can look at it this direction. Isn't this just the coolest? I just love it. One of my favorite features of this tent is you remove that, and you loosen up these tensioners, take out the stakes, and we unclip this one strap down here. Unclip that. Then you can roll this whole section back out of the way. So now we have this great kind of covered porch area. So you could be like right on the edge of a lake and it could be raining and you could be sleeping back in here and looking out at a great lake. I just love this feature. Okay, so there you have it, the Hilleberg Kaitum 2 GT. I think it is my favorite tent I really love the NEAC, and of course like the Chiron. I love them all, I really do, but if I was to get one, I think this might be it. I just really love it. It's got so many neat features. I just love how this can turn into a covered porch. I could just see, you know, a rainy day on a lake and being all, you know, cozy and cuddled in there and looking out on the lake, and got all this room to cook in here. I just think it's just the neatest thing. The way that you can get cross ventilation in here is just fantastic. It just has so many things going for it. The Kurlon 1200 is such a robust fabric. You know, everything about it I just love. Now if you want to see what I do with my videos, is I'll do a review on a product, and then if I ever take it out on an actual trip, I will refer to that. I'll put a link on this video. So subscribe and you'll see hopefully this tent out this year sometime. And of course, I would always love it if you'd subscribe anyway. So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you hanging out and taking a look at this tent with me. I was very excited to get this one, and I will see you on the trail. Bye now.